Roughly 2 weeks ago, a thread found its way onto the competitive Overwatch subreddit, citing that the Overwatch League will enforce a 2-2-2 lock heading into Stage 4. This has since been confirmed by Overwatch writer and personality Yiska in a report to Upcomer. Naturally, this has sparked a lot of discussion regarding the competitive integrity of such a major change this late into the season. However, for the purposes of this video, let's put aside the moral side of this outcome and focus solely on how this affects the competitive landscape of the league. It is a major shakeup, but who stands to benefit the most? Before I reveal my top 5 nominees for biggest winners in a 2-2 lock, it's important to outline my parameters for this discussion, while also attempting to make some educated guesses about the meta. Here are some of the things that I will be taking into consideration. Number 1. To be considered a winner in this scenario, we have to expect a big boost in performance from the form shown up until this point. We're talking teams who have already cracked top 10 and may suddenly become title contenders, or squads who have found themselves at the bottom of the standings and can't really sink any lower. For the teams that are already dominant in the current meta, there is more to lose than to gain, and this exercise isn't necessarily determining who the best teams will be. Number 2. Teams whose DPS players have historically shown star performances while also struggling to adjust to Brigitte and Zarya play in the 3-3 meta will also get a boost. Think about it this way. Would the San Francisco Shock still be fine in a 2-2 lock? Of course. After all, they have arguably the most stacked DPS lineup in the entire league, with names such as Striker and Architect on the bench. However, Sinatra and Rascal have arguably been the best players in their respective positions during the 3-3 meta. Naturally, they'll be fine in 2-2 and should remain title contenders, but it's difficult to imagine this powerhouse roster being even more dominant than they have been up until this point. Number 3. Which teams are most meta-proof? Let's be honest, attempting to predict the meta this early is obviously a crapshoot, especially without knowing any other potential balance changes. Still, that doesn't stop us from making some educated guesses, and let's start with the tanks. For instance, Reinhardt and Zarya compositions have historically existed in very limited stints in a 2-2 environment during the modern Overwatch era due to the importance of high ground, among other things. Sure, we saw NVS using it quite a bit during Apex Season 2, but by the time the finals rolled around, Lunatic High and Runaway relied mostly on dive. We also saw some teams playing the tank duo on the alt stage, especially on maps like King's Row last year. But beyond that, we've mostly seen Reinhardt existing in quad tank and triple tank setups. As such, it's reasonable to expect that any team that wants to be successful will have to have a great Winston and Orisa player up front. Considering this historical context and how Overwatch functions as a game, we might see the end of Reinhardt bearing any other major changes. As such, teams with exceptional Winston players should get a boost. Bunker compositions will likely also be very popular, and Wrecking Ball could potentially be a staple pick as well. And despite the recent nerfs, it's difficult to envision a 2-2 meta without D.Va. As far as DPS heroes go, hero flexibility will be key. Assuming no other balance changes take place, Sombra will almost certainly be a permanent feature in every composition. As such, having a strong Sombra player is going to be crucial, but you also have to have a very flexible player next to your Sombra in order to counterpick effectively. Now, this naturally increases the value of players who are hitscan and projectile hybrids such as Prophet, Erster, Fleta, etc. Despite recent buffs, it's relatively likely that McCree simply remains a situational pick on maps with shorter sightlines, while snipers continue dominating on maps such as Dorado and Gibraltar. Lastly, we have the supports. If the assumptions regarding the other positions are correct, we should see a lot of Mercy Ana and Mercy Zen duos, with a little bit of Lucio sprinkled in on certain maps where you, for instance, might want to play a fast-paced pharmacy dive. As such, it will be crucial for each main support to have a strong Mercy in their back pocket. With all of these guesses in mind, let's go ahead and nominate the 5 biggest winners of the 2-2 lock. You can also see a couple of honorable mentions on the screen right now of teams who don't quite make the list but should also benefit from the change moving forward. Number 5, the Florida Mayhem. Florida hits a home run in certain categories while still having question marks in others. Sitting in last place, the Mayhem certainly has the most to gain in the entire league and practically nothing to lose. The team also has Fate, who was one of the stronger main tanks in the league during Season 1 in a 2-2 dive and sniper meta, while also earning the starting spot for Team South Korea in the 2018 World Cup. The squad can also boast with arguably the best raw aimer in the league in Saya player, while both Saya and BKB have struggled mightily in the 3-3 meta. As such, their potential impact can only go up. What keeps Florida from moving up higher than this is uncertainty in other positions. It's also important to know that if the meta turns out to be Sombra and a flex DPS, there are still legitimate question marks regarding firepower. BKB and Saya have somewhat overlapping hero pools, and it will be up to DPI to fill in everything else. Whether or not they are able to cover everything within this trio remains to be seen. Also, how well will Carrion, Gargoyle, and Rain mesh with the team? We might get answers to some of these questions over the last couple of weeks of Stage 3, but for now, pegging the Mayhem among the 5 teams most likely to benefit from this change seems reasonable. Number 4, the Guangzhou Charge. Sitting at 15th in season standings, the Charge have a ton of room to move up, and the team is still in the race for a spot in the playoff gauntlet. The team has struggled in the 3-3 meta and tried everything from DPS compositions to 3 support variations featuring Doomfist and Sombra. Beyond that, the team also seems to hit home in all other categories. Between Nero, Happy, Eileen, and Kip, the team covers practically everything in the DPS department, with both Happy and Eileen bringing a ton of hard carry potential to the table. Meanwhile, Shu remains one of the best flex supports in the league, while Chara has a lot of reps on Mercy from his time in Metabellum. Hotba is also one of the most flexible off-tanks in the league, regardless of meta. Now, Rio did look like one of the stronger Reinhardt players at least to start the year, and there might be a bit of a question mark regarding his impact on other main tank heroes, but he shouldn't be too big of a liability. Being one of the teams that is most eager to get out of GOAT's jail, the Charge also brings some nice upside to the table, which puts them at 4th in these rankings. Number 3, the Hanzo Spark. I'm gonna be honest, I was very torn whether the Spark should be this high up. After all, they are already looking stronger than ever while sitting at 6th overall in league standings. Putting them here would suggest that the 2-2 lock could push Spark to becoming a legitimate title contender and close the gap with the top 3. It might be a bold prediction, but I don't think that's unreasonable. Gushue has a case for the best Winston in the league, IDK and Baby are looking more solid than ever as a backline, and the Spark check all the boxes in the DPS department as well. Godsby is a unique hybrid with a terrific hero pool, as is Crystal. Adora is also relatively solid, while Bazi is likely to be in the conversation for the best Widowmaker in the league if he sees stage time. There's very little not to love about the Spark, and the 2-2 lock could make them even more of a force. Number 2, the London Spitfire. No one should be surprised to see the Season 1 champions here. Just like the Spark, they're already in pretty good standing, sitting at 5th overall. That being said, there is a very clear gap between London and the top 3 in an unlocked meta right now, while it's difficult to craft a better roster on paper than what the London has in a 2-2 lock. Prophet is arguably the most valuable DPS player in the league, with an exceptionally deep hybrid hero pool and an ability to pick up just about any hero. Prophet has been London's Sombra player so far, but if the hero is indeed a permanent feature in the meta, London can easily slot in guard to fill that duty, while having Prophet and Birdring sharing the duties elsewhere. Gesture is also one of the best 2-2 Winston players in the league, and he has an incredible inherent synergy with Prophet. Naturally, Fury is a rock and one of the most solid off-tanks regardless of meta. Nuss might have been less impactful on Lucio and lost his starting spot to Quartermain, but he did his job as Mercy last year. Yes, the Spitfire roster has always been inconsistent. Yes, they might mental boom at times. And yes, they could very well swoop in as an underdog and snag yet another championship. Number 1, Philadelphia Fusion. London's dance partner from the 2018 finals places ahead of the champs due to current form more than anything, while also possessing a ton of upside. Philly sits at 8th in league standings and is 5-6 since stage 2 and onwards. Sure, that's relatively competent, but it's also mediocre for a team with high expectations, and it's a form that has been trending downwards. Seto has caught a lot of flack this year, and he might not be in the conversation for best main tank in the league, but he looked infinitely more comfortable playing Winston in a 2-2 setup than he has this year. Carpe and Ikkyo covered just about everything, and Ikkyo's flexibility should allow Carpe to once again unlock his MVP level carry potential. Neptuna is also probably dusting off his Mercy pistol already. With so many strong rosters above them, it might be unreasonable to expect Philly to go as far as they did last year, but the 2-2 lock could very well make this team a contender to crack top 6 before the regular season ends, or at least be one of the strongest teams heading into the end of season gauntlet. So those are my predictions for the biggest winners with the impending 2-2 lock. This is naturally a very unpredictable affair that is bound to shake up the league big time. Let me know in the comment section down below whether you agree with this list or if you think someone else might receive a huge boost heading into Stage 4 and beyond. And as always, if you enjoy my content, click those like and subscribe buttons, and feel free to join the Mineral Miners community Discord, which you can find in the description box down below.